Hey Internet, welcome to Worldview Everlasting, your favorite YouTube addiction. Got a question here from Ann. She says this, she says, hi Revfisk, what is the teaching in the LCMS on the subject of modesty? Particularly women's attire. Since coming to Lutheranism, I am somewhat surprised by the seeming lack of concern for modest dress in young ladies and in women in general. In America, maybe, right? Okay, and I'm thankful for young Lutheran pastors addressing false Christ and rules that need to be broken, but do you think there is a need for someone to address the modesty issue in a loving, grace-filled way? Of course, smiley face. Well, and I really hope my answer does not offend you more than anybody else, but that's just kind of the issue, isn't it? How do you, in a loving, graceful way, tell somebody you think you're better than they are? Because that's kind of what happens when you start bringing up that question. Now, I totally agree that the issue of hypersexuality in American culture and the sexualization of women and men together, to the point where we're doing it to like kids, right? So you go into some of these stores that are targeting the preteen girls. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's like we can't even think of any type of love or relationship in our culture at all without having it have something to do with sex, and that's definitely a problem. And to understand real modesty, that is trying not to think too highly of ourselves and put ourselves out there as whether it's a sex symbol or whether it's somebody that you should just have to submit to because I'm better than you, all of that is certainly something Christianity needs to address. But here's the challenge, here's the problem. If I'm sitting here looking at everybody else and thinking, oh man, look at them, they're the problem, that tells me that somehow I'm a little misfocused. Now, and certainly there's a point at which it's like, like I didn't need to see that, or can you put that away, and like that kind of thing, right? But at the same time, like the question itself just betrays that maybe you're coming out of a background that has a habit of thinking that Christians get better and better in a certain way and that everyone else should kind of be keeping up with us. The challenge is Christian sanctification is first and foremost about finding what your own issues are and dealing with those, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not just calling you out alone. There certainly is something to be said for considering your neighbor with how you dress. And a lot of that does have to do with the context. How you dress when you're out in public is a different thing than how you dress when you're going to sleep at night, right? And so knowing that, knowing how you're affecting the people that are around you, and being modest within the context of our culture, that is, well, not trying to entice the lust of others who are not your spouse. Yeah, we definitely want to do that, to pursue that kind of life and to try to teach it to our young people. We want to teach our young women to think more highly of themselves and to think of themselves as merely inanimate objects given over for sexuality, and frankly the men to think of themselves more highly than as just young stags out to kind of sow their wild oats. But I'm not sure that happens just by telling them they better dress differently, right? There needs to be a deeper understanding going on. So like, I mean, I would just point you to 1 Peter 3 where he says to the ladies, about having respectful and pure conduct, right? Do not let your adorning be external, and you got to hear that as being only external, otherwise he would be basically saying don't wear clothes, which he's not saying that. He's saying don't let the place where you look for your beauty be only external, the things like braiding of hair, putting on of gold and jewelry, clothing that you wear, but let your true adorning, let the real beauty, your real value, be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. Now, I think that teaching all of us to pursue more gentle and more quiet spirits, to not, be so quick to judge others who maybe don't even know how they're affecting others in the way that they dress because they're just part of the culture that they live in, and maybe be a little slower to move out on them, but a little harsher on ourselves, a little more aware of our own arrogance and whatnot. If we all did that, I think we'd all be a lot more aware of how we're affecting others, and so we would be a little more discerning about what we do wear, or perhaps when and where what we do wear. I mean, seriously, I mean, if we went over to like an African country and there's a culture there where they don't wear clothing or almost wear no clothing, is our duty as Christians to make them all wear clothing because we're offended by it? Well, to them, it might not even be sexual at all. The real issue, as I said before, is the hypersexualization of our culture, that everything is sexualized, and maybe trying to work against that a little bit more. And then especially when we're out in any kind of public situation, especially when we're out with our brothers and our sisters in Christ, doing our best to treat each other with respect and not try to tempt each other. And that goes for both men and women, the way we act. And that goes not only for how you visually appear, but also how you emotionally act. That goes for how you treat people, right? It goes for how you love them and how you confront them or how you overlook the fact that maybe they have a little superficial sin, and you focus instead on the log in your own eye. And I don't say that because only you got one. I got one too. We all got a log in our eye, and we should spend a lot of time working on that. And the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit is something we do well to remember is what God actually wants from all of us, particularly you ladies, but all of us as well. In God's sight, it's very precious, and I think we've just really lost sight of that altogether. And if we had a little more of that, I don't think the issue would be quite such a big deal. I think our women would understand just kind of by nature, hey, look, I'm like half naked, I should wear my clothes. Yeah, but when you don't have that at work in you, when you don't have the gospel at work in you, how are you going to know that what you're doing is what you're doing? Yeah, don't know if I probably offended everybody with that answer, but that's all right, because that's what we're here for. Worldview Everlasting. We will catch you on Tuesday with another End of the Word. Until then, well, have a good weekend, and be modest, or else, or just think about your neighbor, because that's a good thing. Rock on.